Mechanical Advantage Garage. I'm Kerry, and today we are taking a field trip to the middle of nowhere, Ohio. Or rather, we're heading to Kenton, Ohio to check out a very cool, kind of semi-well-known, semi-hidden collection of old motorcycles. Some vintage cars, but mostly old motorcycles, and other cool bits. We're going to Brims Imports in Kenton, Ohio. This is a particular treat. We go a couple times a year. I am heading up there with the Columbus Area Vintage Motorcycle Group from Facebook. If you are in the Columbus area or Central Ohio area and you're looking for a group to hang out with on Facebook to get rides and tech advice and all of that stuff, definitely check them out. In the meantime, we're in the old 89 F-150 rock and roll surf truck, just trying to get up. Kenton's about an hour north of Columbus, Ohio, on the west side of the city. So it's if you're heading from the west side, it's just straight north. If you're heading from the east side, you kind of go at a diagonal. But yeah, it's a treat. You'll see some of the rarest motorcycles in the world, and they're just kind of in this little, well, they're spread out in this compound of several buildings in downtown Kenton. But it's a small town. It's in the middle of nowhere. I don't know how they get these bikes in. I mean, I know they have. They ship them, but it's just a really interesting thing to see. And there's always cool stuff. So follow along with me, and we're gonna go look at some cool motorcycles. So we made it out here to Coastline Coffee. Like I said, it's in Delaware, Ohio, I think. How these guys are not freezing their butts off is beyond me, because it's below 40 degrees. I don't ride below freezing. It's slightly above freezing, but I just didn't feel like getting all the gear out and everything and getting the bike out. But these brave souls are here, so we'll see how it goes. But this is a cute little place. It's a surfer hangout in a state that has no coastline. There's no surf anywhere near here, but plenty of surfboards on the wall and old surf posters. It kind of looks like my house, actually. So feel right at home, and so does the surf truck. So yeah, got a cold brew, and we'll get on the road soon.
Dude, I'm so coffeeed up.
Boy, I haven't seen a GL 500 in forever. These are the touring version of the CX 500. Kind of interesting bikes, really solo touring bikes, because instead of a passenger seat, you get a top box. This one's in incredibly nice shape. These are made in the late 70s, early 80s. I think 82, 83. They're ProLink rear suspension, not the twin shock. Kind of like the later CBXs, the 81, 82 CBXs had ProLink on them too. It's just Honda's fancy word for monoshock. But overall, nice bike. made it to Brims Imports, which is a pretty neat place. It's this like storefront in the middle of Kenton, downtown Kenton, and you can see old big wheel penny farthing style bicycles right there. But there's also old motorcycles in here, and then across the street there's a shipping container and like 2 more buildings filled with motorcycles. And this is in addition to the used car lot that's also part of the Brims Imports empire, I guess. But yeah, the old farm truck made it, the rock and roll surf truck. Let's go in and take a look at some bikes. So we're heading into the back of the shop where they keep some of the other stuff for display. I mean, this is a working like car shop and body shop, and you know, in addition to being all vintage motorcycles and collections and all that stuff, there's actually like real work going on here. But this is where they hide some of the cool stuff. So let's go back and see what's hiding back here.
That was the Harley
shop. So here we have 2 1975 GL1000 naked gold wings. Both of these have extremely low miles on them. This one has 9,500 on it, and I think this one only has 5,000 on it. Oh no, this has 20,000 on it. Who are we kidding? But yeah, kind of dusty in the back of the shop. But right behind it is a 74 Commando that's been made into a yellow sub replica. It's got some really nice parts on it too. Look at the brakes on this. I think these are Behringer brakes. Kind of beautiful. Yeah, so the yellow subs were the factory race bikes for Norton in the early 70s. I don't know if they made them into 74. But this one's not one anyway. But this has flat slides on it too. Look at that. I think those are FCRs. Yeah, FCR 35s. So here's a really interesting bike. This is a BSA. Looks like a 650 in a flathead Cervicar frame, like is trike frame. So that's a Harley service car frame with a BSA engine in it. And you can see where they made mounts for it and adapter plates, and it's a very well done build. It says 1967 on the engine, I guess. Kawasaki disc brakes on it. Modern Harley front end too. But overall, nice bike. It goes back to back. Some of the fun stuff you just see lying around here is, look at this. This is a pre-war. I can't tell if this is a JD or if it's earlier Harley engine, but this is really interesting. Just sitting in a box here next to 2 big block Chevrolets. Yeah, and these do not look stock. Well, this one does, but not this one. This one looks like it's got higher valve covers. What does it say? Cracked at Keyway. Well, at least we know why it's here now. This looks like it was in a SS396 Chevelle, or maybe a 454. This has the low big block valve covers. This might have like this has a tall valve cover, so it might have a roller valve train in it or something. And yeah, just random old pre-war parts lying on the shelf. There's just so much cool stuff to see around here, and it's all hidden in spaces. So this I love here. This is someone's 1954 panhead. I guess they're calling it a bobber. It's not really a bobber. I mean, I guess anything's a bobber these days that you pinstripe and you don't put an extended front end on. This one's kind of out of time in terms of you got your, ratchet trans, but that's a much later open primary. It is not tank shift, it's foot shift. Got a big saddle on it though. Oil pressure gauge, oil cooler, much later carb. Big magneto on it though. Look at that. Let's get in there and see that. Yeah, there's a big Fairbanks Morse magneto on the front of that. But since the 54, it's a hardtail frame. So overall, kind of an interesting bike. Somebody put this together probably in the 90s or early 2000s, but yeah, disc brakes on the front. Oh, look at this. Honda 750 calipers on the front. That is not a Honda 750 front end, but somebody put a Honda 750 front disc brake on it. Single cam Honda 750, 69 to 78. So kind of a neat setup. So here's something interesting. It's a Henderson inline 4 inside of a glass case. They have a mobile display for this bike, and it also has a one of Evel Knievel's jump bikes that's been converted or been rebuilt since it was a crashed bike. And then very early Indian, that is a rickshaw. That's kind of cool. I have not seen a rickshaw Indian before. And I just realized that engine in the bucket might be an Indian engine, not a Harley engine. But it's still interesting. There is probably easily $1 million worth of motorcycles in this room. Mostly because some of these bikes are six figures on their own, especially the early pre-war stuff like the Henderson 4 over there. But let's go see what's in some of the other buildings, then we'll come back and look at some of the stuff. Although the bi-motors are cool, especially the Tessie. So now we're walking across the street. We're gonna go look at some bikes in storage containers and some in other buildings, just to see what else is there. Should be fun and interesting. So here's one of the storage containers on the property where they have more bikes. And there's a lot of interesting stuff in here, some small bore stuff. Here's an early Ducati. Not sure what this is, might also be a Ducati. I think, yeah, this is also a Ducati. Honda Dream right here. Oh, this I love because this is an early Kawasaki, but look at the badge on this, Kawasaki Aircraft. Look at that, how cool is that? Moto Perilia, 65 Honda 160. There's a Velo Set. There's a Sunbeam. Just kind of interesting stuff. A whole bunch of Triumphs, Can-Ams. We'll go over there and look at those in a minute. All right, so on this side we have, Racing Nortons, a BSA Spitfire Mark III, Harley Davidson Sprint. This is a 72 Sprint, so it would be a 350. Another Sprint. This is a street one. Trident, a Cushman Trailster. A bunch of Triumphs too. But this one's the most interesting to me because this is looks to be a Garden Gate frame Racing Norton. I think it's either a Manx or an ES2, something like that. It's one of the big singles. I don't know anything about it. There's no sign here, but man, that's a cool bike. I think this is an early Manx. But how neat is that? Another. It really is a Merkle. So here's a bunch of other bikes in this other storage container. What do we got here? We got a couple of Ducati trail bikes. We got a 72 Rapido Harley. So these are two-strokes that were made by Ermaki. I think the Rapidos were 90 cc. Oh no, 125 cc. Then we have a Kawasaki F11. That's a 74. That's another two-stroke single. I don't know if that Merkle is real, but that'd be kind of cool. Those are when motorcycles were motor bicycles.
You don't think it is?
1915. I don't know.
I don't know.
It's hard to say.
I'm going to take pictures of the motor. I'll pick
So,
one later.
I don't know if that's real or not. It looks real. So one of the things you can start to look for if you're looking at old stuff, and it says it's a 1915 Merkel, but and the parts look right. But so the first thing you look at is you always look at how the frame is constructed, right? And what you want to look for is you want to look for joints like this to see how they're put together. Anything that's modern would be welded. Anything that's older than this would be press fit or brazed. So this would be the right era for something this old, right? Same thing with the fenders. Everything's riveted. It's all pressed steel. There wasn't a lot of welding or modern construction back then. So a lot of things are bolted. Like, look at how the sprocket's put on. It's actually just bolted to the spokes. Let's get right in there and see that.
I used to ride that Osa right there in Spain.
Oh, the Osa? Yeah.
Osa Butaka.
72 Osa Pioneer, 175.
My brother had a Montesa, and my other friend had the Butaka Frontier. So Butaka take 15.
Uh-huh.
And the next thing I know, 4
Yeah.
days later, I'm buying a friend's bike and building. And he's actually building it for me.
All right, so here's one of the many buildings that we'll come into and see cool stuff. There's a lot of stuff in here, and it's double-deckered, too. Where to begin? Well, we could start with this Cafe Racer Bonneville. That's kind of cool. 69 Bonneville, so this would be a pre-oil and frame. It's got, I don't know if you can see it in there, hammerhead shocks. I have the same ones on my my Harley hill climber. And it has the Tomaselli Condor bars. These are adjustable, so you can actually, there's an Allen key on the back here, and you can move them up and down. Here you can see Condor Plus, and then there's the Tomaselli logo. Very cool bike. Nice non-conical hub front. That is just a regular drum brake front, but stock for 69 and 70 Triumphs. Maybe even earlier too. I don't know British bikes that well, but the difference is you can see here, this is a full size hub. This is a conical hub, right? So these would have been on the oil and frames. Well, here's a very nice BMW /2. These are, and this one has the touring, the fiberglass touring saddlebags, the hard bags. They open with the latch back here. Yeah, let's see if we can get this open. There we go. Not a lot of room in there, but enough if you needed to go camping, These are very nice bikes. Plunger style frame, even on a swing arm. So it's not an axle. There's still a swing arm and a shaft here, but plunger style shocks in the rear. This would be a US model. So this would be a 68 or a 69 US, and I say that because these have the front telescoping forks. Anything earlier than that would not be a US model, and it would be the Earl's fork with the big with the shocks and the big swing arm and the whole thing. Very nice Denfield solo saddle on it. Big tank with the map pocket in the back. Just all around cool bike. Most people don't realize this. This is the key right here. I'm not going to take it out, but yeah, it's just it's the switch and the key that goes in, and then when it's out, there's a cover slide right here that covers it up. So, very cool bike. I don't know if it's an R69S or not. It could just be an R60/2. It could even, well, I don't think it's an R50 because the cylinders are too big. But yeah, overall, very cool bike. So here's kind of my favorite section back here. These are where they're parking some of the Italian big bore stuff. We have a last of the run, looks to be a 79 maybe, 900 Super Sport. These are the ones that had the the facelifted tail. So they're more triangular. It's not the original bubble back of the early 70s, the 750s, and then the later 900s. And this is past the SSD Dharma era. Very nice bevel Ducati. There's the bevel drive. This does not have a gear gauger on it, surprisingly enough, but these are what's known as square case Ducatis because of how square the case is. The early ones, 72, 73, 74, I think 74 street bikes, 72 race bikes, they have round cases, and they're often called round case bikes. This was the era when Ducati was just really high-strung, high-performance stuff. These bikes are incredibly uncomfortable to ride. I've tried many times. It's one of my favorite motorcycles to own, but they're just so temperamental. You have to be skinny to ride them, and I think the service interval, like the oil change service interval, is something like 1,200 miles or 1,500 miles. It's crazy, and you got to do valve adjustments, or at least check valve lash, because they're desmodromic every 3,000 miles or something like that. But just incredibly gorgeous bikes, you know. Dual Brembo FO8 calipers on Martian AC wheels. Just unbelievably cool stuff. And then next to it, we have a 78 Le Mans. Just a really beautiful bike. This, I don't know if this would still be a chrome bore or not. But this one, it's seen better days. It hasn't been out in a while. But it is fairly stock. This does not seem to be modified. Somebody put a set of cylinder protectors on it, but other than that, for a round case, it has a lot of corrosion on it. These, if it's chrome bores, this engine needs a full rebuild. But you know, still has the Del Ordos on it. As they say, nice Italian carburetors here in the Midwest. And it has the most beautifully designed fairing of any motorcycle, this little bubble fairing right here. The later Le Manses have a more pronounced headlight. I think the early ones were more flush mounted, but still gorgeous bike. This one's faded too. And you can tell it hasn't been on the road since '08, because here's the last inspection sticker right here. I don't know what city or state this came out of. I think it's New Hampshire, maybe. But and then right next to it is the 81 CX100. So in other countries, this would have been the Le Mans 2. But in the US, we couldn't get the 850 for the Le Mans 2 series because the emissions testing was too expensive for Moto Guzzi. So for the US models, they put the SP1000 engine in the Le Mans chassis and called it the CX100. Now, I owned one of these that was a Le Mans 1 replica, and it was one of my favorite bikes, and I should never have sold it because now I pine for it constantly, even though I own two other Moto Guzzis. But I just love this one, you know. These were bastard childs of the Guzzi world for the longest time because, you know, you had the Le Mans 1, which is high performance and light flywheel and revvy and fun and 150 mile an hour motorcycle. And then you had the Le Mans 3 and 4s that we got that were also just great performance motorcycles. And this is kind of this is like a Corvette with a truck engine in it, you know, or an RV engine in it. Torquey, low revving, not very fast to wind up, but a brilliant chassis. You know, the Lino Tanti frames on these bikes is just, it's so good. They still use them today on the small block Guzzis, the V7s and all of that. Even though the Lino Tanti V7s or the Lino Tanti small block frames are slightly different. This is really interesting too. Here's the key. Yeah, battery is way dead on this one. But yeah, there's the dashboard. The Le Mans 1 has a absolutely gorgeous dashboard. No, with a smooth top clamp, no handlebar mounts. So yeah, here's a gorgeous pair of Guzzis. And since we're talking about Italian stuff, here's a 93 Ducati 900 SS. This would be one of the first years of the 900 SS full fairing bikes. I think 93 was the first year of the Monster too. So they have these in 750, 900, 600, 400 in Europe. But also interesting is the dual lights. Most of the time you see these, they have one big square headlight here. Like actually here, right over here, this. Most of the time you see them, this is the headlight they have. This is a later 900 SS. But these early ones have that dual headlight set up. I can't remember if it was an option or if that was the stock one, but man, it's such a good looking bike. Big problem with these bikes though is they have neck cracking right here at the steering stem. So you always have to check to see if it's cracking or if it's been welded when you're buying one of these. But yeah, like right in here, they would crack at these frame tubes. Otherwise, though, completely brilliant bike to ride. Absolutely gorgeous. And then right next to it is an 07 GT1000. This is part of the Sport Classic line. Some of you have seen the 2006 Sport 1000 that I own, that I'm the original owner of. This was also part of that line, but this was the more naked touring version of it. Mine's a little more sporty, and mine's a mono posto. These are dual seat, but still a really neat, pretty bike. And kind of climbing in value right now. Well, here's another interesting bike. This is a 85 Cagiva 650. I believe this is a Cagiva Aluzura, although I can't see any markings on it for it. But these are Ducati Panta engines. In fact, you can see it says Panta on here. These are the rubber band engines. So Ducati Pantas were made at the same time. This is during the era when Cagiva owned Ducati, and that's when Ducati actually got really good. In fact, here is a Ducati Panta. And you can see down here, it's the same engine. And here's another 87 Cagiva Aluzura. This is an SS 650. Again, Panta engine. So, nice set of Italians right here. So most of you will know my love affair with Ironhead Harley Davidsons. And here we have a pair of XLCR Cafe Racers. We have a 77 and a 78 XLCR Ironhead Cafe Racer. And what's cool about these are the exhaust pipes, because you have one on each side and they Siamese right here. So front cylinder, rear cylinder, they come together for a crossover, and then this one goes around the front and goes to the back. Supposedly these were amazing exhausts. Like, they made really decent power for the Ironheads. This has a Lockhart oil cooler on it, which is a nice accessory upgrade. And these have the later dual disc brakes starting in 77 for the XLCRs. These also had the later frames that showed up on Oral Harleys in 79 and forward. The thing about these frames, and you can see they're triangulated here in double cradle, is that they were patterned after the XR 750 TT road racer frames. But unfortunately, they had to change the geometry to make them more street friendly, so they don't handle as good as the XR 750 TT road racers. They're more lazy handling and not as good. But there's also rear disc brakes on them. So they were just kind of a really unique motorcycle. A lot of flat track styling, a lot of road race styling, kind of a mix of things. Very well appreciated bikes now. And these are very good examples. Also, we have two turbo bikes, a 82 Yamaha Seika Turbo and an 83 Suzuki M85 Turbo. Or not M85, what's the name of it? The N something. XN85, that's what it is. But this one's particularly interesting because I always loved this. You could read turbo in your rearview mirror when it was coming up behind you. This was in the era when everybody had a turbo bike. So Kawasaki had the GPZ 750 Turbo. Honda had the CX 500 and 650 Turbo. Yamaha had the Seika 650 Turbo. These were 850 turbos. They were kind of cool, and they made a lot of power. Underappreciated. They didn't sell very well. I think Suzuki just kind of rushed them to market, and they were very expensive and didn't keep up with the demand of turbo bikes from Honda and Kawasaki. So here's something really cool. Here's a 1971 XR 750, but this is an Ironhead XR 750. So these are not the aluminum heads you're normally used to seeing in 72 and up XR 750s. These are standard Ironhead heads and standard Sportster rocker boxes. The big difference between an XR 750 and, say, an XLCH 900 in these years was the bottom ends, right? So the XR would have a roller bearing crank like the XLR previous to it and the KR previous to that. they would also have a shorter stroke. So the barrel is actually shorter here. This one's been streetized. See, since it shares a lot of parts with Sportsters, a lot of people would, get these old Iron XR 750 setups, and they would make street bikes out of them. So this one has the magneto in the standard magneto location. Instead of magnetos on race bikes would be here where the generator is. So this one has a generator because this one has lights, and this one is a street bike, or at least has been converted to a street bike. However, we can see that this is a true XR because it has an XR frame. There are no castings up here. This is all welded. There is one casting down here because that's what the XRs also use, but it also has a rear Earhart disc brake instead of the drum brake. And if you look at the neck too, this is another giveaway. It doesn't have the usual Harley neck casting. This is all tube frame, meaning that this was an actual race department or a replica of a race department XR 750 frame. So here's a gorgeous bike that I know almost nothing about. This is a mid to late 50s Mondial, or Mondial, whatever you want to call it. These are Italian. They were Ducati competitors. They were small bore, 250, 350. But they are just gorgeously designed. Look at all the detailing in here. And all the round cases. The Italians just know how to make stuff. So pretty. Yeah, I wish I knew more about these bikes, but here I'm just showing you what I can because it's here and I think it's pretty, and I think you guys as an audience should see it. Here, this is a Super 175cc. Look at that. 175cc. How neat is that? So here's something that's really cool. This is a NCR Racing Ducati. So this would be a rubber band motor. I believe it's a Panta, but you can see, I can't tell if this is a TT1 or a TT2, and there's no sign here. But here's the belt drive for it, and then all-in suspension, just gorgeous stuff. Here's the NCR logo. This one's been raced recently, and it's been outfitted with a modern digital dash, but and all of the nicest modern parts. Like, look at this Showa forks that have the Brembo brakes and the gold plating on the sliders. Just an absolutely gorgeous Ducati race bike. Yeah, again, I don't know if this is a TT1 or a TT2, or it could even be a later Ducati, like a 90s set up as a race bike. I just don't know enough about them, but look at the size of that carburetor, though. Isn't that something? Here, let's see it. Gorgeous. interesting bike, and at first glance you might think that this is a Vincent Black Prince, but it is not. This is a 1961 Indian, but it is not a Springfield Indian. It is not a Massachusetts Indian. This is actually a Royal Enfield that was sold as an Indian. These are not Floyd Clymer Indians, by the way. These were done by a British guy who imported them into the US and who had acquired the Indian name in 1958 and had sold these from 58 to I think either 62 or 65 as Indians. He sold Royal Enfields and Italjets as Indians. Very neat bike, very cool Indian logo. Look at that. How cool is that? Not terribly valuable, but still very cool looking. Not really easy to see, but this is one of my favorite bikes here, and I check it out every time. In these row of Nortons, which there are so many, starting with a 48 International over there, 75, 69, 74, 68, 47, 63, 65, 59 ES2. This is a Dunstall 810 Mark II. And the reason why it is one of my favorites right here, this red one, is my father owns the same one, and it's in my basement. I have a 72 Dunstall 810 Mark II, exactly like this, but in yellow. Although mine has the Dunstall disc brake forks, this still has the stock Norton drum. I don't remember if this was a kit bike or if this was built in Paul Dunstall's facility. Mine was built in Paul Dunstall's facility. And we're gonna be doing features on it later this year, so if you like Norton contents, to hang in for that. But this is just an absolutely gorgeous bike. Let me see if I can get better pictures in here. Look at that. Well, I did say there would be some car content, and here it is. We have two absolute legends of English motoring right here. We have a Jaguar XK Roadster, and behind it a 59 Austin Healey. I don't know if that's a 3000 GT, and I don't know if this is an XK 120 or a 140, but both just fantastic cars. Both inline sixes. The British really loved inline sixes for sports cars in the 50s and 60s. Just look at this dash, though. You know, how fantastic is that? I wish I fit into these cars, but they have incredibly short toe boards, which means that people over 6 feet have trouble sitting in them. These cars were actually designed in the late 40s following the war. And this one happens to be later than 53. So this is probably a 140, because if you look at the badge, it says Le Mans winner 51 to 53. And Jaguar, you know, these cars were 120s and 140s because those were the top speeds, 120 miles an hour and then 140 miles an hour. What's also interesting about this is that this is the car that inspired the 1953 Corvette. I can't remember if it was Bunky Knudsen or Harley Earl or one of those guys who his wife owned one, and he thought the car was so magnificent. He's like, why doesn't Chevrolet have this as a sports car? So they started development on the Corvette, and that's why the early 53 to 54 Corvettes are inline sixes. One, because Chevrolet didn't have a V8 at the time, but two, British sports cars, especially the Jaguar, were inline sixes, and Chevy had a pretty good inline six. So why not build a sports car around that? Just an absolute gorgeous car. So pretty. And here we have a 59 Austin Healey. Is this a 3000 GT or no? It just says Austin Healey here. This one is under restoration because you can see it has several pieces inside of it. And here is the transmission. There's usually a cover that goes over this. They had a bolted on cover. It wasn't a single piece floor pan like we do with modern cars. Made it real easy to service the transmission. And here is that famous Austin 6 with twin, those look like SU teapot carburetors or tea kettle carburetors. Very nice setup. Very good for its time, antiquated for now. Just absolutely gorgeous car. though. Unbelievably cool. And hiding over here behind this, I'm guessing is a sidecar. Yeah, this looks like a sidecar, and it looks to be attached to this God, I don't even know what, this is a Hydroglide panhead. So this would be a 55? Yeah, so this is a, oh, you know what, it says it on the front badge here. 1955. Still a rigid frame in those years. They were Hydroglide because of the juice brakes. Juice brakes meaning they used hydraulics to operate the drums. They were not cable. But just absolutely neat bikes. This one's perfectly restored. I don't know the purpose of this sidecar other than to say this was probably a, not a service car, but like some sort of dealership or working unit. Or who knows, maybe somebody made it for a farm. You never know the history on these things. This also has the really cool buddy seat with handlebars in the back. So there's the second passenger seat. It's the same tractor seat as the front. It's on springs, but instead of grabbing onto you, the passenger grabs onto handlebars, which I think is really cool.
Supposedly, it was built by Harley for a racetrack to retrieve down bikes. Oh, okay.
So if somebody crashed on the track, they would go out on this panhead and retrieve a crashed motorcycle.
Yeah, that's what the story was.
Yeah, because it looks like a bike would fit in this sidecar.
Yeah, the gate would go down, they'd slide right up in there, and off they'd go again.
That's amazing. There's a lot of nice details on this. Is a 55, right? The
guy who restored it was kind of a quirky guy, imagine that.
yeah.
And everything that he put on there was brand new NOS everything.
It's got the
lines, valve caps, the handle grips.
yeah.
He would collect parts for 30 years before he'd start on one.
It's got the buddy seat with the handlebars. I rarely see that
Which
anymore.
is also NOS brand new. Both seats are.
Yeah. Wow.
This guy, I never got to meet him. He died, and I was buying stuff through a friend of mine out of his estate. And I think I bought most of the bikes as they were offered. I don't think I passed on any of them.
Well, I mean,
And I paid too much for them, but they were really high quality, all of them.
this is stunning. It's gorgeous how pretty it is. Like,
But I paid 40 grand for it.
No kidding.
It seemed like a lot for 55 panhead.
honestly, with the story that it's got and the sidecar setup, I don't know that that's out of line.
Jim from Mendon is in here. He's a Harley dealer over in Mendon.
Yeah.
And he looked at it and he goes, Tom, that's really well done. I go, they're telling me it's factory. He goes, I've never seen one. He said, but if they were going to do one, it would look just about like that.
Huh.
And so he said, I'd be the last guy to tell you that it wasn't, but he said, I've never seen one. And so,
Yeah.
you know, used to be a Harley dealer in Lima. A friend of mine worked for him. And he would take a sidecar rig and go to Milwaukee to get parts. He would go up there and fill up the sidecar with parts.
That would not be something.
And then right behind it is a bike from my childhood. Not childhood, I was a teenager when this was out. These are cow glides, so called because of the black and white paint scheme, but also the cow fur, cow skin seats and theme for it. These were special edition Softails. They were heritage Softails. 93, 94, 95, I think around that time frame. This was in the era when Harleys there was more demand than there were production, so these were sold at a premium when they came out. They were hard to get, and I remember this being a very sought-after bike for an Evo Softail. Eventually, by like 97, 98, Harley was actually keeping up with demand and the prices came down. But I remember, dealers were getting $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 over sticker for these bikes because nobody could get their hands on new Harleys because of how quickly they sold. And that was before they would put a lot of extra chrome on it at the dealers because, man, did they love to suck every cent out of you at those days. So we were talking about Ducatis before. Here's the 860 GT. These came out in 74 or no, 75. These were designed by, I can't pronounce his name right, Gregorio? The same guy who designed the Volkswagen GTI first generation Mark I, and all sorts of other cars like the Alfa Romeo GT V6s, and even designed the Suzuki RE5 too. But these were hated at the time for how their styling was. And I remember people hated these for a very long time because they're so bizarre looking. But now, 40 years down the road, 50 years down the road, they're not as bad as I remember them to be. And they're quite good for beveled Ducatis. This is not a Desmo engine. This is an 860 GT. So it's 860 cc's, bevel drive, but valve springs to close the valves instead of being Desmodromic. Still a very pretty bike. And actually there's another one over here too, since we were talking about the SS's before. Here is a 1980 SSD Dharma. So this was a 900 SS Desmodromic Ducati, but this is the Dharma body styling. I think these were also Gregorio, or however you say his name. I'll put it in text. Again, not as popular, but just really, good looking bikes now. Not as sought after as the earlier 900 SS that we saw, that 79, or even the earlier 74, 750 green frames or anything like that, but still a very pretty bike. And then behind it, we have a XLH Harley Ironhead Sportster, and set up in full touring rig. Now the XLHs were the touring bikes. This one is a 64, so this one would still be kickstart, not electric, and you can see by the kicker. But these were not the high compression XLCHs at the time, nor were they the racing XLRs. These were the big, I got saddlebags, I got a solo saddle, I'm gonna ride to California on it. This has the, what they call these the turtle tanks. They're about 4.2 gallons compared to a stock Ironhead 750, which would have had a 2.2 gallon tank. Not 750, XL 900 and 883 900 Ironhead at the time had a 2.2 gallon tank. You can get nowhere on it. Some other details: shrouded shocks. These have the spring saddles, so they have plungers that actually go into the frame, and they're hydraulic to balance you out. So this seat actually does move up and down. Just gorgeous bikes. The thing I love about these early ones, and they did this up until I think 65 or 66 of these nacelles on the XLHs, they have a sunk-in speedometer right there in this Sportster top cover instead of having the usual small headlight in the eyelid. This also has the accessory spotlights. But what a gorgeous bike. Drum brake front. Just a really nice setup. I love these. And this has a very nice accessory windshield too, which probably makes touring on it very easy. So here are a couple other interesting bikes. Here is a 1940 Indian four-cylinder. You can see that in there. Most people want the twins or the Chiefs, because those are affordable. These are something else. Four-cylinder, left side tank shift. How are you? Look at this gorgeous Henderson. It is a Henderson inline 4. So here's the exposed valve train. These are the valve springs right here. And look at the exposed spark plugs too. So you ever wonder about plug caps, why they screw on and screw off? It's because they used to screw on to the plug wire. Here's the carburetor. This is the actual intake log. And then here's the exhaust. I don't know why Americans always did same side intake and exhaust. I guess it was easier on flatheads or on overhead valve engines to do that. but crossflow is so much superior. That's what made the Jaguars fantastic. But anyway, this is just an absolutely gorgeous. This is a 1913 Henderson. Look at that, Detroit, Michigan. This is a big cast piece board with the footplate, and here are the brakes. Just absolutely gorgeous. I wish I knew more about pre-war bikes, especially these early, post-World War I, pre-World War II stuff. I mean, look at this. This is an Excelsior Autocycle. I mean, these are back when they were still bicycles. Oh, look how pretty this is, the light. Searchlight. Yeah, that is fantastic. All these little, cast details. This stuff you just don't see anymore. Like here, look at this solar light with the glass jewel right there. How fantastic is that? Just all these cast details are not present in motorcycles anymore. But again, these were when these were still more bicycle than motorcycle. And here you can see the friction shock. This is actually the drive. So this is the drive wheel for the engine. The chain here drives this wheel, and then the wheel turns the wheel. So it's crazy. I used to wear down the tread pretty easily too. Believe it or not, they still use that on motor bicycles today. If you buy a motor bicycle kit, it usually has a wheel that goes on the back wheel. But just look at how fantastic this is. And here's the belt engagement for this Excelsior Autocycle. Yeah, and this is drive belt. This is a leather drive belt. You can see the seam is right here. Unbelievable how cool this is. These are one of my favorite bikes that you almost never get to see because people kind of forget that they exist. So this right here is a Harley Sportster. And it's an early Sportster. This is actually a 1957. But it's unusual in that it is an XLA, A standing for Army. They made these for the U.S. Army to use instead of the big twins. They even made a variant for the Navy, too. They're quite rare. You don't find them anymore, but I've seen them as late as the early 70s. So they certainly made them from the 50s to the 60s. I think the most common one I've ever seen is 1960 and 62. Although I've seen a 64 also. But this one's a 57. That's the first year of the Sportster. Some interesting Army-specific details are the intake box here. So instead of having a exposed air element filter, it has a box for working in dusty or desert climates. Also, even the oil tank is painted olive drab. And these are not magneto, surprisingly enough. You'd think that being an Army bike, it would be a magneto bike. But these were XLH configurations, so they use a distributor, not a magneto. This being a 57, it has the earlier 3.2 gallon Sportster tank. But and I don't know if the windscreens were accessories or not, but I've never seen one without one, so I'm going to assume that they are. These also have the interesting dash. They don't have the usual Sportster headlight eyebrow. These have a dashboard with the Speedo in the back of it and the nacelle, the headlight nacelle, that looks like a big twin nacelle with the ribs right here. Overall, a very cool bike that you very rarely ever get to see.
For the military, of course.
Yeah.
But they never got sold anywhere else. The military never sold them off. They gave them to the Forest Service.
You know where a bunch of them ended up is in the Philippines.
Probably.
There were, because I remember seeing one for sale in the Philippines, and there was a picture of a junkyard there with a whole bunch of them.
Yeah. So that one showed up in a wrong year frame with a lot of wrong parts on it at a swap meet.
Yeah.
And Scooter, my friend from Delaware that I mentioned before,
Yeah.
he bought it and brought it to me. He said, "Here, I thought you'd want this motor." So I got a motor and a title. Well, my friend from up in Bath, Ohio,
Yeah.
he was redoing Sportsters. And he knew I had that motor over there. And he goes, you know, Tom, we could build a military bike. He said, it wouldn't be that hard. He said, there's only a few parts that are special.
Like the airbox.
Airbox.
Yeah, that's for desert fighting. Because the Nortons had that too.
And so the other thing was the breather coming off the crankcase.
Yeah.
It's taller.
Yeah.
The front rim is different.
What's different about the front rim?
It's an 18 front instead of a 19, where the
Oh.
production was a 19.
Really?
So guess where we found the rim? We were at Ole looking at Sportster shit. Because he was working on Sportster.
Yeah.
And there's a rear wheel laying there with the rear tire on it, right?
Yeah.
But the spoke angle was wrong on that one because the rear wheel has the same size hubs on both sides.
Right.
So Dan and I both grew up doing wheels. And we're looking at the spoke angle going, the spoke angle's wrong on one side, which means that has to be a front rim. And so we bought the wheel, came and took the tire off, and it was still OD green on the inside.
Really?
Same thing happened with the tank. We found one.
Well, that's an early Sportster tank though. That's just, but it
Yeah.
has the plaque on it.
Except for the military, they took the side emblems off and they put 4 holes in the top for the plaque.
Right.
All right. So he finds one, and the guy's going to bring it to Davenport to us. And of course, he said, "Well, somebody's taking the emblems off side." So the first thing we do is open the cap and run our fingers in there, right? See if it's got the nubs. They're
Right.
there.
Yeah.
So it was a legitimate military tank.
Wow.
Scooter had a brand new NOS speedometer in his collection of stuff. Because I told him I missed an NOS speedometer on eBay. He goes, "What'd it bring?" I said, $1,200. I quit. He goes, "Well, I got one." I said, "You got one what?" He said, "A new NOS Portster speedometer." I go,
Wow.
"Really? How much?" He goes, "Oh, I might not want to sell it." So he called me 2 weeks later. He goes, "All right, you can have it."
Right.
He had to digest it. So it was just a matter of just putting the word out. The choke housing is military only.
Yep. Because of the airbox and the
Because
car.
the airbox, it's basically the same airbox I used on the military one in World War II.
Yep.
Just on the opposite side, so that makes that choke housing particular to that one. So that choke housing came out of Florida. We found it down there. Whip is another Sportster guy
Yeah.
over in Marion, and we're over there one day, and he had a seat and some other stuff. He had the plaque. My friend goes, "You'll never find a plaque," and Whip goes, "I got one. You can have that one." And so we were talking about that choke housing. He goes, "So that's what that's for." He had one too,
Right.
but he never could figure out what it was for because he'd never seen.
You'd never seen the setup.
He'd
Huh.
seen lots of Sportsters, but he never saw one like that. So
Right.
it was just funny.
So when I was at Mecum in 24, I think, there was a Navy one there. And I think they only made like 40 or 50 for the
Yeah,
Navy.
probably.
And it was it's the same setup, but it's dove gray instead of olive drab. But everything else is the same as an XLA. And I can't remember what the designation was for it. I think it was XL. It's not XLN because that would be too easy. But it was something like that, like XLB or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd never seen a Navy bike either, and it still had its commission markings on it. Hadn't been restored.
But they bring a lot of money.
When you find them.
You know, I saw a couple for 35 grand. I saw another one for 50. I go, well, how they can't be worth that kind of money.
It's probably the most valuable Sportster that's not an XR.
I mean, we ended up with about 12 grand, and that time we were done.
Yeah, well, of course. That's the problem with Ironheads is that it costs like 10 grand to restore one, and it's only worth 3 to 5 when you're done.
That's true with a lot of shit.
Well, yeah, some.
But
Big twin stuff always seems to hold its value.
yeah, the military didn't want to stock 2 spare tires, so it made sense to them have it.
Wow.
One tire.
That makes a lot of sense because the WLAs are like that too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, and
It's
and the
about-
XAs are like that too.
Yeah.
The BMW style Harleys.
I never did find a real good set of bags for the bag. You know, I had a set, but they weren't nice enough to paint and put on there.
That's unfortunate.
But
That's a cool bike though.
if you like Sportsters.
I have.
I mean, just normal everyday cars. Yeah. You can sell them 12 months a year. Motorcycles, not so much. Get in there.
All right, thank you, sir.
Oh, it's dark. You can't see.
Yeah.
Well, I remember the old Cushmans. Oh, the Cushmans, we had everything.
I had a friend of mine, he bought a new Eagle
There's a real nice
So-
blue one up there with a sidecar.
You have the Gelbeck bike, but not the Roadhog. You have one of the Iron Duke powered ones.
Which one now?
The Wild Bill Gelbeck.
Oh,
Gelbeck. Yeah. I just noticed that. I didn't see that before.
Actually, I got that from Jonathan Dobbs, the guy from Wisconsin who was just here today.
Oh, really? That's an interesting. So he built what, 3 of those, and then the Road Dog. He built 5.
He built 2 road dogs.
He built 2 Road Dogs, and the Road Dog's down at Maggie Valley with.
One of them.
Yeah. But
Oh, the Benji had a bunch of them in his museum down there. One day he decided he was going to get rid of them, and I took them all home. And I built a shelf for them, and they didn't quite fill up the shelf, and then people kept bringing more of them in. Go here, put that one up there. Okay, I can do that. I always started with bicycles and motorcycles back in the day. So if it was interesting, I drug it home. It's just about right.
Oh, wow.
so it's a torsion bar, like it bends.
Well, it's just two leaf springs, basically.
Oh yeah, I
and
guess
they're
that's all.
progressive. So the one kicks in, and then the second one kicks in. And you're thinking, well, that's pretty fucking cool.
I still can't get over that it's wood wheel and shaft drive. 1900, huh? So that's a.
That's 02. All right.
Oh, it's 02?
This is Columbia. They had one, but of course they didn't have suspension on theirs. That's just shaft drive.
Oh, but the pinion shaft is kind of fascinating to see. Look at that.
And the worst thing is they weren't the only ones doing it. There's a Crescent over here with full suspension and shaft drive.
And that's from the early 1900s also.
Yeah, also
Wow.
probably a little bit later. But they used a little knuckle in the front with a spring, and you can see that one's all collapsed. So the spring's probably ate away from rust and corrosion.
Okay.
I wonder why did they switch to chain drive?
Easier to maintain, easier to manufacture.
Well,
It's cheaper.
Yeah, it's cheaper.
That's an expensive.
to me, that's the answer.
Yeah, but that's expensive to build because you got machining on the
Right,
end. You do
right.
stamp sprockets and it's all about money. I mean,
What is it?
Well, when you think about manufacturing from that era, right? They didn't have like fancy welders and CNC and all that stuff. They had casting, they had brazing, they had press fitting, So either you were going to stamp it or you were going to cast it, and then to join it together, it was either going to be friction.
now, here's an interesting
You know.
one back down here. Every time you buy something, you learn, right? Same guy I got the Pierce from picked this up in Boston one day at a little bicycle shop, right? And he goes, I don't know what it is, Tom, but he said it's French. It's probably middle of 1905, 6 somewhere in there. And I'm looking at it, I'm going, but it's got a modern chain on it. You don't see that in 05 and 6.
Yeah,
I go, somebody's obviously restored it and put that on there.
yeah.
All right, but it's nice. And it wasn't a lot of money, so I brought it home, right?
Uh-huh.
Somebody brings me a Mead Ranger catalog from 1916. And Mead Ranger is a bicycle built in the United States.
Okay.
Best of the times, right?
Uh-huh.
And they used the Brampton imported chains and sprockets in 16. I don't know how much earlier on that Mead Ranger.
Uh-huh.
And I thought, well, they had to be around for a little while before 16 in order for them to know.
Yeah, sure.
And so there you have it. So I don't know. It's probably real, but I
was
don't know.
going to say it's probably original.
Yeah, I don't know that it
Well-
isn't,
Oh, right.
but it probably is.
Yeah.
The one hanging here was from 1943, and it was a Badani. It was Italian, and it had a 3-speed derailleur on the back with a hand shifter.
Okay.
And I go, man, I never seen one. A friend of mine found it on eBay one day, and he says, we're probably going to bring more than I can afford. So if you want it, let me know what your number is. And he said, I'll keep you in. So he wanted to pay $2,000, I think, and I told him I'd pay up to $3,000. It was all original tires, everything, never been, just brand new old bicycle, never been used. And so it went in at $1,700. He said, I decided you can have it anyhow. I don't really need it, so I'll just bring it over for you after I pay for it. Okay. But there were 2 levers. one released a little the cam on the axle to release the axle. The other one moved the chain from side to side. And I thought, wow, it's really weird. And
That
somebody,
was really advanced for its time.
yeah, 39 it came out, and they won a world championship in 42. So this was commemorative of that world championship.
Wow.
And so a couple of weeks after I got that bike, somebody brought me another bicycle one day, right? See if I can find it. It was sitting here, I might have moved it to the other building. And I said, well, that's pretty clumsy to have to take that, loosen that wheel and try to get it all straight and keep racing. He goes, oh, Tom, you don't understand. He said, before they did that, they'd have two different sprockets on the rear wheel. They could use one to go uphill, they get to the top of the hill, they flip the wheel over, and then ride down the other side with the other sprocket. Somebody brought me an old race bike with fucking both sprockets on it. There it is.
All be darned.
Well,
You know what, thinking about, I retired as a machinist. This one here?
yeah, what's the single, right? It's a,
Ridden out of Germany late in World War II. Three guys show up at a little farmer's place near the coast of Portugal. Wanted to know if they could leave their bikes in the barn for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So they never came back for him. So the old man dies, and his son's living over here in the States, and he goes back home to take care of things, and he brings it back with him, right? And so you can see it was hand painted with a brush back to make it look like a civilian bike at the end of World War II, and these guys come riding out of there with them. I said, well, that makes sense because they probably found a submarine out in the bay and headed for Argentina or someplace. But the funny thought was, I didn't realize Portugal was neutral back in World War II. I'd never heard it before, you know it? Oh, Wade?
No, Spain was. Spain was.
Was it?
So it makes sense that Portugal would be
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
I never thought about it. I thought nobody ever brought it up before.
Yeah, Spain
Wasn't
was-
in a history course I took.
Spain was neutral. Switzerland was neutral.
I knew Switzerland. Everybody talked about that.
I think Sweden was officially neutral. Maybe wrong about that. I thought it was.
well, Switzerland was neutral, but Franco was a fascist.
He was.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Spain wasn't neutral. It was a German ally. It just didn't contribute to the war
Yeah,
effort.
they were considered neutral,
Okay.
whatever that means. But yeah, you're right. Franco was
It means they wanted to play
fascist.
both sides.
Yeah.
That's what usually happens, right?
Boy, this is some stuff. Look at this. Guzzi. This is a small block Guzzi, but it's pretty.
Oh, he's a serious Moto Guzzi guy.
Yeah. That is nice.
I think that's the one that was out at Bonneville.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh no, this is a big block square
There was
Guzzi.
one of them that was a Bonneville bike that he was playing with.
Yeah.
It might be that one. I can't remember.
That's
Change
a
and shit.
that's a Le Mans 3 tank. I don't know what the front end is. That's kind of impressive. Square head, square barrel engine, so it's 1,000 cc. Yeah, this is a pretty nice setup.
Yeah.
Wow.
He said he bought it just to get the wheels.
Yeah, I don't blame him.
There's the one. Road.
Okay.
That may have been an interstate originally,
Yeah, that's an interstate tank,
but it's got electric starter on it.
but it's an early bike. It's not a.
Yeah, it's not a factory.
It's a 750. So this is an interesting bike. It's a 72 Norton with an aftermarket electric starter on it. 72s didn't have it, so this would be a 750 Commando. It's got a single carb conversion on it. Oil cooler. Yeah. So here's another Norton. This is an interstate, and this is another one with an electric starter, but this has an aftermarket Alton starter on it. Oh. This is cool.
Yeah.
So that's a 82, 83 SP.
80.
It's an 80.
Rubber manifolds and round barrel carburetors.
Oh, okay. Oh, it is a round barrel. Okay. And it's, you said 5,000 miles on it? Wow.
Did you see that?
All right. So you pull the clutch in, and the side stand goes up.
Yeah. Automatically goes up.
Oh, I love BMW. They're so weird.
One time I worked in the shop, and some girl come in there, and we had a BMW sitting in there, she picked it up, the side stand folded up, she's let go of it.
It still was too much money.
This is a Bimoda KB1, so Z1 900 powered.
So we had to buy it. I don't care. Who wants it?
Boy, these are Italian chassis with Japanese engines. This was the one they made after the Honda, right? Well, I'm leaving Brims Imports. And man, what a day. That was kind of interesting. Anyway, yeah, leaving Brims. I think Tom is one of the nicest guys I think I've ever met. I love meeting people in motorcycling. I love meeting people who are passionate about stuff, and he is both. He's awesome. He gave me private tour stuff that not many people get to see, and man, I really enjoyed it. Kenton's a nice little small town in Ohio. Not a lot to do here, so I'm just going to head home through the bleak wilderness that is Central Ohio. And I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed the stuff I was looking at. And if you like the video, you want to see more, subscribe. If you want to comment, please leave me a comment. I read them all. I respond to them all. And yeah, so I will see you next video. Thank you and have a good one.